I never thought I'd be here, writing this. I never thought my life would split in two, like some overdramatic soap opera. But here we are. For context, I'm Ethan. I'm 32 now, but the nightmare started 5 years ago when I was 27. Back then, I had a decent life, steady job, a close-knit family, a group of childhood friends that felt more like siblings. It was the kind of life that felt predictable, safe, until it wasn't. The story starts with my cousin, Jordan. We were inseparable as kids, practically brothers. Our moms were sisters, and they made sure we spent every summer, every Christmas, every birthday together. We had inside jokes that spanned decades, scars from stupid dares, and enough embarrassing childhood stories to keep each other in check. So when Jordan proposed to Lily, no one was surprised. It was like one of those rom-coms where the best friends finally see what's right in front of them. Lily had been around forever. She moved into the neighborhood when we were kids, and our families just merged. She was like a little sister to me. I helped her with algebra. She made fun of my awful haircuts, and when I got dumped for the first time, she baked me the ugliest but most heartfelt, "You're better off" cake. So when Jordan and Lily started dating in college, it just made sense. The whole family was thrilled. Fast forward to their wedding day, June 22nd, 2019. A perfect summer wedding at a charming little vineyard just outside of town. I was one of the groomsmen, of course. Wore an overpriced gray suit that I justified by telling myself, at least I'll look good in the pictures. If only I'd known I wouldn't be in any of them. The morning started off great. I showed up early to help set up because that's what you do when your cousin/best friend is getting married. I was directing an elderly couple to the bathrooms when I heard my name. No, not heard, snarled. I turned just in time to see Jordan barreling toward me. And then, pain. He punched me so hard I saw actual stars. I always thought that was an exaggeration, but nope. Turns out, seeing flashes of light when your brain gets rattled is very real. Before I could even process what was happening, he was on me, fists flying. I barely got my arms up to defend myself before I felt a rib crack. Someone was yelling, people were rushing over, but Jordan was relentless. "You betrayed me. I trusted you." I could barely hear him over the ringing in my ears. By the time they pulled him off me, I was a mess. My lip was split. My left eye was already swelling shut, and my suit? Might as well have set it on fire. And that's when I heard the words that shattered everything. "I know about you and Lily." I laughed. I actually laughed, which, in hindsight, wasn't the best move with a busted lip. But the accusation was so absurd, so ridiculous, that my brain couldn't even process it as reality. Before I could say a word, I felt a hand on my shoulder. "My dad." "Get your stuff out of the house," he said, voice flat. My stomach dropped. "Wait, what?" "The wedding's off, and so is your place in this family." I looked around, at my mother's tear-streaked face, at my sister glaring at me like I was dirt, at Jordan's best man shaking his head in disgust. They all believed it. No proof, no conversation, just blind, unshakable certainty that I had destroyed everything. And just like that, my life was over. I don't remember leaving the wedding. One minute, I was standing there, barely able to breathe, my ribs screaming in protest, and the next, I was in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I must have driven in a daze because when I finally came back to myself, I was parked outside my apartment, the sun already setting. I checked my phone. Missed calls. A dozen messages. Not one of them asking if I was okay. "Mom, we are so disappointed in you. I can't believe you do this to your own family." "Dad, your things will be in the garage. Do not come inside." "Jordan, you ruined everything. Don't ever speak to me again." "Lily." Why? That last one nearly broke me. I wanted to respond, to tell her I don't know what the hell is going on either, but what was the point? No one was listening. By the time I worked up the nerve to go to my parents' house, it was close to midnight. I half hoped they'd come to their senses, realize how insane all of this was. Instead, I found my childhood crammed into 3 garbage bags, dumped carelessly on the garage floor. I just stood there, staring at them. It wasn't even about the stuff. It was about what it meant. My parents, the people who raised me, who were supposed to love me unconditionally, hadn't even let me inside my own home. Something inside me cracked. I grabbed the bags, tossed them in my car, and drove. Where? I had no idea. I just needed to be anywhere but here. And that's how I ended up at Ben's place. Ben had been my best friend since high school. The kind of guy who never judged, never asked too many questions. We drifted a bit after college, but if there was one person I knew I could count on, it was him. He opened the door, took one look at my face, and swore under his breath. Jesus, Ethan, what the hell happened? I tried to explain, but how do you put something like this into words? That in the span of a few hours, my entire family had turned their backs on me over something that wasn't even true? Ben didn't press. He just handed me a beer, pulled some frozen peas out of his freezer, and let me sit there in silence until I could breathe again. Somewhere around my third drink, he finally asked, "Okay, but do they have proof?" That was the million-dollar question. "No," I muttered. "They just know." Ben let out a low whistle. "So let me get this straight. Jordan's fiancée, who's basically been your sister since you were kids, was cheating on him with you. And the only evidence they have is their own dumb paranoia?" "Pretty much." Ben shook his head. "Man, your family is stupid." That shouldn't have made me laugh, but it did. Then came the real kicker. Ben set his beer down, brow furrowing. "Hold on. If this isn't true, where did it even come from?" I froze. Because up until that point, I'd been so consumed by the betrayal, by the absolute insanity of it all, that I hadn't even stopped to ask the most important question. Who started this? And why? I checked my phone again, scrolled through the messages, trying to find something, anything, that could explain this madness. And then I saw it. A text from an unknown number, sent to me just a few hours before the wedding. "You should probably disappear for a while. Things are about to get messy." A chill ran down my spine. Someone had planned this, and I was going to find out who. I must have read that text 100 times, turning it over in my head like a puzzle with missing pieces. "You should probably disappear for a while. Things are about to get messy." Who the hell sent it? And how did they know what was coming before it even happened? Ben leaned over my shoulder, frowning at the screen. "You recognize the number?" I shook my head. "No, it's not saved in my contacts, and I don't have any messages from them before this." "Try calling it." I did. Straight to voicemail. No name, just a robotic voice saying, "The number you were trying to reach is unavailable." Ben grabbed his laptop. "Send me the number. Let's see what we can find." I wasn't expecting much, probably some burner phone, but at this point, I was desperate for answers. While he worked, I scrolled through the storm of messages still coming in. Some from old friends, some from distant relatives. All of them condemning me. And then, right in the middle of the chaos, a new text from Lily. "Lily, I need to talk to you. Please, can you meet me?" For a second, I just stared at it. I didn't know what to expect. Was she looking for answers? More accusations? Some part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her sit with whatever twisted version of the truth she'd been fed. But I needed to know. So I sent back, "Where?" She replied immediately, "The park by my old house." 20 minutes. Ben glanced up from his laptop. "What's up?" "Lily wants to meet." Ben frowned. "You sure that's a good idea?" "Nope." I grabbed my keys anyway. The drive felt surreal, like stepping back into a world I no longer belonged to. The park was empty except for one person sitting on a bench, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold something together. "Lily." She looked up when I approached, and for a moment, I saw something in her face that wasn't anger or disgust. It was doubt. "You came," she said quietly. "You asked." We stared at each other, the weight of 5 years of friendship, betrayal, and unanswered questions pressing between us. Then she let out a shaky breath. "I don't know what to believe anymore." That took me by surprise. After everything, I thought she was just another one of them, another voice in the chorus of accusations. "Then why did you?" I asked, my voice harsher than I intended. She flinched. I was scared. Jordan was so sure. He showed me messages. Said people had seen us together, sneaking around. And I didn't want to believe it, but it felt like everything was pointing to what? I cut in. Something that never happened? She shook her head, looking miserable. I don't know. That's why I wanted to see you. I need to hear you say it. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Lily, listen to me. Whatever they told you, whatever proof you think you saw, it's not real. I have never thought about you that way. I have never done anything to betray Jordan. And I have no idea where this is coming from. She searched my face, looking for something. Doubt? A crack in my voice? A lie? Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "Then who would do this?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Ben. I stepped away to pick up. Find something? His voice was tight. Yeah. That number? It's registered to Alana Graves. I frowned. Who the hell is that? Silence. Then Ben said, "Dude, it's Jordan's ex." Everything inside me went still. Lana. The girl Jordan had dated right before Lily. The one he was obsessed with, until she broke his heart. The one who had every reason to want his wedding to go up in flames. And suddenly, everything clicked. I turned back to Lily, heart pounding. "I think I know who did this." Lily stared at me like I'd just spoken in another language. "What do you mean, you know who did this?" I gripped my phone so hard my knuckles turned white. It was Lana. Her breath caught. Lana Graves? I nodded. Ben traced the number that sent me that warning text before the wedding. "It's hers." Lily paled. She looked away, her fingers pressing against her temple. "That doesn't make any sense. I haven't talked to Lana in years. Why would she?" "Because she never got over Jordan," I cut in. "She left him, but when he moved on, when he found someone he actually wanted to marry, maybe that didn't sit so well with her." Lily swallowed hard. But how would she even pull something like this off? That was the million-dollar question. I ran a hand down my face, my ribs still aching from the beating Jordan had given me 5 years ago. The pain was duller now, but the damage ran deeper than just bruises. It wasn't just the physical wounds I'd suffered that day. It was everything that had come after. The humiliation, the exile, the loss, and all because of Lana. I took a shaky breath. She had to have planted something. Fake texts, fake emails, something to make it look real. Lily looked down at her hands. She was shaking. "I saw the messages," she whispered. I froze. "What?" She nodded, her throat bobbing as she swallowed. "Jordan showed them to me. He was so angry. He had screenshots. Messages from your number to mine. Things I never remembered saying. Things I would never say. And messages from your phone to him. Mocking him, taunting him, telling him he was a fool, that we'd been together for months behind his back." My blood ran cold. "Lily, I never sent those messages." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know. Now, I know. But back then, I was scared, Ethan. I was about to marry him, and suddenly it felt like my entire world was unraveling. My parents, his parents, everyone kept saying it had to be true." I clenched my jaw. Jordan never once stopped to ask me. Never once came to me like a brother and talked to me before throwing punches. She let out a bitter laugh. "He never really talked to me either. He just knew, the way everyone else just knew." I turned away, staring at the darkened sky above the park. My mind was racing. If Lana had faked the messages, she had to have access to our phones, or at least to our numbers. Ben had always been good at digging through digital footprints. I shot him a quick text. Check if Lana had access to any spoofing apps. Lily wiped at her eyes. "What do we do?" I exhaled slowly. "We find proof." She hesitated. "And then what?" I turned to her, my jaw set. "And then I make damn sure everyone knows what really happened." Lily looked at me for a long time. Then, finally, she nodded. "Okay." It was the first time in 5 years that we had been on the same page. And it was about to change everything. The next 48 hours were a blur. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Jordan's fist flying toward me, my mom's face twisted in disappointment, my dad's cold stare as he told me to get out. And now, after 5 years of exile, I finally had the name of the person who had ripped my life apart. Lana. Ben worked fast. By the next morning, he sent me a text with a single link. "Found something. Call me." I called him immediately, barely waiting for him to pick up before blurting, "What did you find?" Ben let out a low whistle. Dude, I went deep on this. Turns out, Lana had a habit of messing with people's lives. I found a post on some tech forum from a guy she dated back in college. He said she hacked into his email and sent fake messages to his professor, making it look like he was harassing her. Almost got him expelled. A chill ran down my spine. And no one saw that as a red flag? Nope. She played the victim, just like she probably did with Jordan. But here's the real kicker. I found evidence that she was using a spoofing app around the time of your wedding. My breath caught. What? Ben continued. I pulled up some old app records. There are several apps that let you send fake texts that appear to come from someone else's number. You can change the name, the timestamp, make it look completely real. Everything inside me went cold. Jordan's proof, I murmured. Exactly, Ben said. Lana didn't just manipulate him. She created the messages. I sat down heavily on the edge of my bed, my heart pounding. This was it. This was the proof I needed. I called Lily immediately. She answered on the first ring. Did you find something? I explained everything, my words tumbling out in a rush. When I was done, she was quiet. Then, in a voice so soft I almost didn't hear, she said, she really did all of this. Just because she didn't want Jordan to be happy with someone else? I exhaled. Looks like it. A long pause. Then Lily spoke again, her voice firmer this time. We have to tell them. I hesitated. Are you sure? She let out a breath. I spent 5 years thinking you betrayed me. 5 years with people whispering behind my back, treating me like a fool for not seeing it sooner. And you? You lost everything. If we don't do something with this, what was the point? She was right. So we made a plan. It happened 3 days later. I had never been back to my parents' house since that night they threw me out. But standing outside the front door, Lily at my side, it felt like I was walking into a battleground. She knocked. Footsteps. Then the door opened, and there stood my mother. She froze when she saw me. Her eyes flickered between me and Lily, suspicion creeping into her expression. What are you doing here? Lily spoke before I could. We need to talk. And you're going to want to hear this. My father appeared behind my mom, his face hard. You have a lot of nerve showing up here, Ethan. Trust me, I said, stepping forward. You're about to feel a whole lot worse. We sat in the living room, the tension so thick it was suffocating. My mom perched on the edge of her chair, my dad standing near the window, arms crossed. And then Jordan walked in. He stopped dead in his tracks when he saw me. What the hell is he doing here? He spat, looking at my parents. Lily turned to him. Sit down, Jordan. His jaw clenched, but he sat, glaring at me like I was dirt under his shoe. 5 years ago, I began, keeping my voice steady. You accused me of something I didn't do. You told everyone you had proof, messages, texts, conversations that never happened. And instead of asking me, instead of even considering that it wasn't true, you threw me away. Jordan scoffed. Don't start this again. We saw the messages. They were fake. Silence. I could see my mom fidget, glancing between us. My dad's expression didn't change. But Jordan? His face twisted in anger. Bullshit. Lily shook her head. No, it's true. We found out how. She pulled out her phone and slid it across the coffee table. That's proof. Lana used a spoofing app to send fake texts. Jordan stiffened. Lana? I nodded. She never got over you. And when you moved on, she made sure your wedding never happened. He looked like I had punched him in the gut. My mom reached for the phone with shaking hands, reading through the information, her lips parting in horror. Oh my God. Lily's voice was soft but firm. You destroyed Ethan's life because of a lie. Jordan stood so abruptly the chair scraped against the floor. No, that doesn't make sense. Lana wouldn't. Wouldn't what? I shot back. Wouldn't ruin someone's life? Wouldn't lie? Newsflash, Jordan. She did. And you let her. My mother was crying now, her hands over her mouth. My father still hadn't moved. Jordan turned to me, his face wild. I didn't know. I let out a bitter laugh. And that makes it better? His eyes darted to the phone, then back to me. I need to talk to her. I stood. You do that. But don't expect me to care. I turned toward the door, Lily right beside me. I could feel my mother's eyes on me, hear her shaky voice calling my name. I didn't turn back. 5 years. 5 years of exile, of pain, of being treated like garbage. And all it took to break it was proof. The worst part? If I had never found it, they never would have believed me. That realization burned more than anything else. But I was done chasing their approval. I had my life back, and that was enough that I didn't look back. Not when my mother called my name. Not when I heard Jordan muttering to himself, flipping through the messages as if rereading them would somehow change the truth. Not even when my father, silent through it all, finally let out a breath and said, "We made a mistake. Too little, too late." Lily and I walked out of the house without another word. She drove, her knuckles white against the steering wheel, her breath shaky. "I still can't believe it," she muttered. She really did all of that?" I leaned my head against the window. "Yeah." Silence stretched between us. I knew she was processing it the same way I had, turning it over, trying to find a crack, some explanation that made it less awful. But there wasn't one. Lana had torn our lives apart with a handful of fake texts and just enough manipulation to plant the seed of doubt. And no one, had stopped to question it. After a while, Lily cleared her throat. "What now?" Good question. 5 years of anger and grief had led to this moment, but there was no satisfaction in it. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel relieved. I just felt tired. "They know the truth now," I said finally. "That's all that matters." She nodded, but I could see the doubt in her face. We both knew it wasn't all that mattered. We had been betrayed by our families, our friends, the people who should have stood by us without question. 5 years of lost time, of whispers and rumors, of doors closing in our faces, of being treated like villains in a story we hadn't written. Lily pulled up outside my apartment. She gripped the steering wheel for a moment, staring straight ahead. "I don't think I want to see them again," she admitted. I turned to her. "You don't have to." Her throat bobbed. "And you?" I let out a slow breath. "I don't know." Because, truthfully, I didn't. Part of me wanted to tell my family to go to hell, to shut the door on them the way they had on me. But another part, the part that still remembered birthdays and family dinners and lazy Sunday afternoons, ached for something I wasn't sure I could ever get back. Lily exhaled, rubbing her temples. "I should get going." "Lily," I said before she could open the door. "We made it out. We built new lives. That's what matters." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, we did." She left, and I sat there in my car, staring at the ceiling. It was over. So why did it feel like something was still missing? The days blurred together after that. I waited for another call, another message, some desperate plea from my parents or Jordan. None came. I told myself that was for the best. And then, one evening, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Jordan." I stared at it. "Can we talk?" I started to type, then stopped. My fingers hovered over the screen. I wasn't sure what I expected, but before I could talk myself out of it, I replied, "Why?" His response came almost instantly. "Because I need to tell you something, and I think you deserve to hear it in person." A part of me wanted to ignore him, but something told me this wasn't just another half-hearted apology. So I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe outside town, neutral ground. Jordan looked like hell, like he hadn't slept in days. His usual confidence was gone, replaced with something I couldn't quite place. He sat across from me, staring down at his coffee like it held all the answers. Then, finally, he spoke. "I owe you more than an apology," he said. "I owe you everything." I waited. He exhaled sharply. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I need you to know that I get it now. I see it. I see her for what she is." He ran a hand down his face. "Lana wrecked my life too. And I let her." I folded my arms. "You didn't let her ruin mine. You helped." He flinched. "I know." Silence. Then, he pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. "Look at this." I hesitated before picking it up. The screen was open to his messages with Lana. I scrolled, and what I saw made my stomach turn. She had been grooming him for this for months. planting ideas, seeding doubt. Every interaction between Lily and me, she twisted into something sinister. And when he finally started to break, she went in for the kill. I just think you deserve better. Lily's been spending so much time with him. Doesn't that bother you? You're not crazy for thinking something's going on. If I were in your shoes, I'd be questioning it too. I heard them talking the other night. It sounded intimate. I don't know, Jordan. I just don't want you to get hurt. She had fed him everything he needed to justify hating me. I set the phone down carefully. My hands were shaking. Jordan rubbed his face. I thought I was protecting myself, protecting her. But I was just a goddamn puppet. I clenched my fists. Why are you showing me this now? He looked up, eyes hollow. Because I lost everything, Ethan. And I did it to myself. I studied him, searching for deception. There was none. Just exhaustion, regret, and something dangerously close to self-loathing. Finally, I said, I don't hate you, Jordan. He blinked. You don't? No. But I don't trust you either. And I don't know if I ever will. He nodded slowly, accepting that. Fair enough. I pushed the phone back toward him. You have a lot of damage to fix, but it's not my job to help you fix it. His throat bobbed. I know. I stood, ready to leave. But before I walked away, I paused. Lily doesn't want to see you. Don't try to reach out to her. He swallowed hard. Understood. And with that, I walked out. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Everything was different now. The truth was out. The weight I had carried for 5 years had finally lifted. And yet, some wounds don't heal just because the knife is removed. I turned to my side and picked up my phone. There was only one contact I wanted to message. Me. You up? A moment later, Amy replied. Amy, duh. Watching murder documentaries. What's up? I hesitated, then typed. Me. I think I'm finally ready to let go. Her reply was immediate. Amy, about damn time. I smiled. For the first time in years, it felt real. The past had taken enough from me. It wasn't getting a second more. Letting go is supposed to feel like a relief. Like taking off a heavy backpack after carrying it for miles. But the truth? It's a slow process. You don't just wake up one day and stop hurting. You don't just forget 5 years of betrayal overnight. I thought confronting my family, exposing Lana, and hearing Jordan admit his mistakes would bring closure. But it didn't erase the memories. It didn't give me back the lost years. And it sure as hell didn't fix the relationships that had been shattered. But maybe that was the point. Some things aren't meant to be fixed. A week after my conversation with Jordan, I got a text from my mom. Mom, we miss you. Please come home. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Me, I am home. I didn't say anything else. Didn't explain. Didn't give her an opening for another emotional plea. Because I had finally realized something. I didn't owe them an explanation. For 5 years, I had begged to be heard, to be believed. And now, I didn't need them to believe me anymore. The truth was out. Whether they could live with their guilt was their problem, not mine. I had spent enough time mourning people who had proven they never truly knew me at all. 3 months later, I proposed to Amy. She said yes before I even finished asking. We celebrated that night with takeout and a cheap bottle of champagne, laughing as she waved her ring in front of our cat, trying to get a reaction. Do you feel lighter? She asked me at one point, curling into my side. I thought about it. Not exactly, but I felt different. Like I was finally standing on solid ground after years of sinking. And maybe that was enough. Lily and I kept in touch. We didn't talk every day, but when we did, it was easy. She was happy with her new life, and so was I. We both knew that even if we never set foot in that town again, we had already won. Jordan never reached out again. I wasn't sure if that was because he respected my boundaries or because he didn't know how to face me again. Either way, I didn't care. As for my parents, they tried. More texts, a few voicemails. But they never truly owned what they had done. Their apologies were more about their guilt than about making things right. And I wasn't interested in playing therapist for them. Maybe, years from now, I'd reconsider. But for now, I was done looking back. Amy and I got married in a small ceremony with only the people who had actually been there for me. Ben was my best man. Lily flew in with Chris. Even Ben's dog was there, wearing a tiny tux. And as I stood there, watching the woman I loved walk toward me, I realized something. I had lost my old life, but in the end, I had built something better. Not despite what happened, but because of it. And that was the best revenge of all.